unpredictable artist has entered chat, and this is her badass introduction. Don't. Hey, Unpredictable, how are you? Some weird sun dapples on me there. How are you this evening? It knew you were going to say something, so it triggered. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, were you just, did you have some technical issues there? Because I thought you were going to stream, weren't you? And I don't think I got a notification. Oh, you're going on in 20? Nice. Nice. Yeah, I know the, I can commiserate with you on the woes of multicam setups. So I'm just doing a short one tonight. I'll probably just go for an hour and a half. And then sign off. Just doing a few little odds and ends. Yes, I think you had mentioned that, yeah. It's a good idea. Need those mods for body painting. Lest things get out of hand. When the drunken, paint-crazed maniacs of Twitch show up. Good evening, Etchy. How are you? Happy hump day. Although no, it's not really. We're past it for me. I was off on Monday. They do give that impression, don't they? The drunken masses. Well, humans, I hope you've all had wonderful weeks so far. This needs to be up a little bit. There we go. Yes, that's true. That's true. Feels like Friday. But it's not Friday. Yeah. Actually, I've done the math wrong, haven't I? It's not hump day at all. Hump day occurs tomorrow. In some strange space between today and tomorrow. Sadly, it feels like Friday, but it isn't. So I busted my ass. Kind of. Getting these pieces masked and painted out over the weekend and the last few days. They look a little rough up close, but that's because they are. Super hard parts, lots of curves, lots of difficult bits to mask, so there's a little overspray here and there that I had to touch up with hand paints. And these paints do not hand paint very well. Well, it's hard to mix any kind of hand painting with something that you've airbrushed. But just little corners and things I've touched up. But I'm hoping it kind of, once I go over this with the future Drift.
Drift has connected to chat at 56k baud.
Excuse the sun dapples on my face. I don't think there's anything I could do about that. Yeah, difficult to really match anything up that's hand painted over something that's airbrushed. Yeah. Anyway, hope you're all well. As I was saying, I don't know if you were here, but I'm just going to probably have a shorter stream tonight. Go for maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours and then call it because I have a few things I need to do. But I'm just basically doing odds and ends here, wrapping up a couple little bits and pieces on some parts that I've missed, like I did this. I've done these, but I've missed a few. I forgot to do this one with the extra colors. And I think I'm going to change that part there to be a darker color. And I also noticed this detail on the side, which I forgot about, which will also be the same dark color as that. And then I should be able to sort of wrap up the legs, to be honest with you. I should be finished the legs completely. And at that point, I've got most of the stuff done or behind me. I have a lot of it already clear coated with Pledge floor polish, which is what I use as a sort of a top coat before doing panel lining and decals. Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. There's one guy I watch. I don't know if you guys know of him, Peppo, Gregory Peppo, who does he does some sketching art on weekends, but also he does Red Dead Redemption roleplay on the Wild RP server, and the guy goes for like 12 hours, just of solid art, like roleplay. It's insane. I just don't know how he could do it, but anyway. Thanks, Etchy. Appreciate that. It is coming along. It's looking, you know, I'm happy with how it's coming out. I've got most of the backpack finished as well, which is what these parts are from. That sticks in there. Well, you probably saw the Instagram post and I had it on what's it there? Our Discord. So yeah. Let's get going here. There it is. So, Drift, I found out last night that the Twin Tower probably won't be ready or in the mail until fourth quarter of this year. So that might be a project for 2022. I kind of expected as much. I sort of expected as much. You know, when I saw it say, second quarter of 2021, I thought, yeah, right. But that's okay. Lots of stuff I can work on in the meantime. You know what? That's okay anyway, because I was sort of thinking that maybe that should be a bit of a milestone. Oh, I saw those. I was looking at that today. Because I think we're both on the 5-star Discord, right? That's where you saw that. Let me just see if it's the one. Yeah. So this is basically, folks, an assembled 5-star. Is that not working? Bing. Bong. There we go. This is the Twin Tower kit that I was talking about. Because this is the Volks, right? This isn't the WSC. I'm pretty sure this is the Volks. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. You think that's a WSC? Okay. Yep. Yep. Workshop cast. It's so big. I think the WSC one's actually a little bigger, isn't it? I might be wrong. But what is it, like 680 parts? Yeah. And then I think he has some other tweets of same. Yeah, here. It's insane. It's just crazy. Anyway. In that pose, I know, right? Like, oh, I'm tempted though. Although, you know, to a certain degree, I have no idea what I'm going to get. I don't know. I mean, we certainly have the room for it here, but I don't know how much other household members would appreciate that. They'd probably find it awkward in the center of the dining room table, where I would want it. That's right. In the hallway, in the front hall. That's right. In the front hall. And then I'd have to try to get a Warhammer Emperor Titan to hang coats and put umbrellas up against. Just going to do the dark colors here first. So dark, dark. And then I do want to keep these masked. Or I'm going to mask these properly and just put a piece of tape over them. And I'll do those after with the light. I totally should have just cut that out, but I'll do that on the next part. You know, like with the scalpel, I could have just easily cut around that, put a piece of tape over it. But instead, I like wasting everyone's time. So I'm very intrigued with those Gothic made kits. Actually, there's a tiny little piece on the top. Yeah. Stupid teasers. Hey, how's Baba Yaga coming along, guys? Awesome. And is that like the end of it? Like you can see the light at the end of the tunnel here? I do have to do that part. Oh well. Just do the end here. Yeah, okay, cool. Cool. I'm excited to see that happen. Oh, there's 20 plates. Like 20 build plates? Wow. Wow. How many bottles? How many liters of resin? So far. Well into 3. It's crazy. That is crazy. Trying to get this centered a bit better. Fourth on the way, just in case it gets close. And you're using the, what is it, Sharia Tech or Sharia Tech? I can't remember. Or maybe I'm misremembering that. The way they set up the prints, they print narrow flat edges directly on the plate with the assumption that the builder will then clean up the sides of each piece near the plate. I added supports to lift the parts, since anything that close to the plate will be squished some, unless things are dialed in perfectly. Yes, that is very true. Plus, it's easier to sand the bottom edges, support nubs. Yeah. Yeah. E-Pack's hard. Okay. And what was the model? Was the model designed with the intention of being built, of being printed on SLA drift, or were they also sort of thinking people, because of the size, people might be doing it FDM? It was done for resin. Yeah. Because that's kind of a peculiar way of setting it up. Like I would completely do it the way that you're doing it if I were. And since the house builds like a puzzle, having the wall piece be a fraction of a millimeter too hard along the Z would add up over. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Too small. Okay. Well, just off. You're going to have error creep in, right? Yes, very much looking forward to seeing that. I've never really printed anything quite that big. Well, that's not true. I've printed, I mean, I think I showed you guys even like the Tara Rask there from Artisan Guild, but it wasn't nearly as many pieces. And in fact, he had a version of it that was cut and keyed for larger format build plates, which I used rather than the smaller size. You know, DLP style. So that's pretty good. I think I'll just put a bigger piece of tape over here. Protect those. I'll spray these dark color. Then peel that off. Peel these off. And that should work. And I think I have one more of those. This one I'm going to do smarter though. Shop smart, shop S-Mart. Unpredictable, did you get your camera working? And enjoy the lurk. Unpredictable is just setting up to do a body paint stream. Nice. Yeah, that is cool. I'll go and I'll raid Ender even if there's only the 3 of us. She's normally on a little earlier, but she was saying that with body painting, she likes having as many mods around as she can, and I don't blame her. So, just doing it a little later. Oh, hey, that reminds me. I should show you. And Drift, actually you and Drift, and anyone else who cares. My pressure pot. Oh, come on. I can do that in a minute. Let me get these little progress here on these done, and I'll do that. I'm sorry. Okay, you know, the other, it's funny, I thought this would be faster doing it this way. Nope. I did look for that exact same pressure pot when I was setting up my stuff, but it's just not, it didn't really make any sense, because by the time it was shipped up here from Harbor Freight seemed like the most logical one to get that from. It was going to be as much as kind of a more upmarket paint spray pot. So I just went with that one. That you'll see when I drag it out how it looks a little beefier. But I mean, I can see you guys like hiding behind a rock in your backyard with the pressure pot way up at the back, and you're slowly turning a knob to let the air into it, yelling "fire in the hole" for the first 50 times, the first 50 runs. You know, goggles. You get anxious about all your equipment. Like, what other stuff do you have that's dangerous? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Torches. Yeah, you just have to respect that stuff, right? In another life, I designed and sold vacuum tube high fidelity audio equipment, and you just sort of develop an appreciation for what you should, and you know how to respect that sort of, you know, dangerous things like that. Because with anything, any electronics or audio electronics, guitar amplifiers, those sorts of things, or that use large transmitter style tubes, you know, high wattage output tubes, you're up in, you know, 1,000 to 1,200 volts. DynaQuest E70, nice. Yeah, I was using big transmitter tubes like, I can show you one, hang on. All right, I gotta stop switching scenes until I fix that. Or at least have a little audio saying that goes wee, or like I regret nothing. Make a little space here because it's kind of big. Yeah, so I was making stuff that single-ended Class A high-fidelity amplifiers based on iMac, like vintage radio Class A power amplifiers. This is an iMac 250T. And I can't remember the exact specs. They might not mean anything to you if you don't know much about electronics, but the filament in it, the filament in this I think was something like, it's like 25 volts at I think 15 amps, and it glows like it's like a light bulb when it's running. And people are always a little disappointed when they see smaller vacuum tubes because they think, aren't they supposed to light up like a bulb? But they're not really. There's a little filament in them that lights up, that heats the plates up. But yeah, this one it's really gigantic. But this would give me, with the proper custom output transformers, this would give me like 25 watts of Class A vacuum tube power. But yeah, they're really beautiful. Really beautiful vacuum tubes. That was a whole other life ago that I used to do that stuff. Oh, you know what? While I'm doing this, let's just show you the pot. All right. Get it up a little further. I don't need those. So this is the style of pressure tank that I ended up getting. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah, it's sort of a nice, like dark blue, but it has this style of hold down clamps where there's a big axle that goes through the plate. It's about 1/4 inch plate. Okay, great, 1/4 inch plate, and then you hold it down like that, and so the way that they have this washer pressing up against that piece, you don't have that constant potential like deformation that's happening as you're sort of cranking screws into the top, like the style that you have. Yeah, they are. They're good, and they work really well. You can just like spin them really easy. And so there was a big stirring crank that came out of here, which I removed, and I had my father, we just took this nut out of the tank, and we tapped an NPT. He has a machine shop, and we tapped a big NPT thread on there so I could put an NPT stop plug on there with some, you can see some of the Teflon tape. And because it's on this side, right, there's no way if it ever were to fail that this is going to go through it. And then it had a number of fittings on the top that I was able to just put in a plug to fill it. This is a variable pressure safety valve. I have a gauge here, and this was on it already, so I just put another valve on it just because I had these parts lying around. So yeah, that's mine. It's not huge, but it works. It's on wheels. Has this great big handle, so you can kind of roll it around the room really easily. And I think it was about $250 for this. And then I don't know what it would cost to have, if you don't have access to a machine shop. I don't know how much it would cost to do this. I know you guys are handy, but hand threading a screw, hand tapping something that like a 3/4 inch steel bore would be really hard to do by hand. So we used a power auger type. We used a lathe actually to do that. So there's another little safety valve here. I have multiple safety valves on it. This one I think is set even higher. Like, what's the top rating? This tank is rated to 70 psi, is where it kind of redlines. And then I have this set to 60, I believe, 60 psi. Yeah, so the green, mine crosses into yellow at 60. So I'm kind of assuming that that's sort of where the red is probably where things might get a little terrifying. So anyway, that's what I use. And this is me. It's a me. Yeah, it's not easy threading really big threads like that. But usually, I mean, you guys are in Vegas. I'm sure you could find a machine shop who'd do that for like, yeah, give us $50 kind of thing. Yeah, but that's what I use. And honestly, I just use it in here. I have, I have a hard line out to my big shop compressor that's in my outdoor workshop, and I feel totally comfortable with that thing in here. I mean, it's really built like a tank. And then for the vacuum degassing, I just have a pretty much like an eBay special. Looks like a big stock pot with the acrylic lid. It doesn't go down quite as it doesn't pull the vacuum quite as tightly as I'd like it to, but really high quality vacuum pumps, that's where things can get very expensive. But your stream last night though has like it's made me immediately want to get one of those keyboards and start making my own keys. Absolutely. So thank you for that. I haven't run into anything questionable with the pot. Yeah. Nicer fun to make, yeah. Very, very cool. Haven't heard anything questionable with the pod, but it's one of those things that I've worried about since disasters since I was a kid. So I get these crazy images in my head. Oh well, I mean, it's good to, like I was saying before, it's good to respect the things that you're working on and keep an eye on stuff, right? Let me just think here. I remember getting into the weirdest argument with someone on the internet about someone in one of the casting, I think it was actually the Resin casting subreddit, about somebody wanted to use a pressure vessel for a vacuum chamber, which I have on pretty good authority is completely fine. You know, if it's one like what I just showed you, right? Like, you know, you're looking at, you know, a quarter inch plate steel vessel that's can withstand, you know, up to like potentially 70 psi. It's going to be okay with one, you know, one atmosphere, or sorry, not one atmosphere, but it's not going to come to me what you actually take it down to with the vacuum, but 0, right? Like, that's going to be okay. But this person insisted that it's extremely dangerous to use a pressure vessel as a vacuum pod, as a vacuum chamber. And I'm thinking, my pressure vessel is so much more substantial in every respect than like the stock pot that I have for a vacuum chamber. Anyway, after all that, I reminded myself it's best not to really... yeah, and you know, I realized afterwards, like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I on Reddit engaging in an argument with somebody when I could be doing just about anything else? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because I mean, you have a vacuum pot. It's like there's nothing to them. And even then, let's say it did fail, right? And you had sucked all the air out of it, and it did fail. It's going to develop a little leak and immediately fill with air, and that'll be it. It's not as though it's going to implode and then explode like it's a thermonuclear warhead. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's how, you want a black hole? Because that's how you get black holes, Drift. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's a crock pot with a piece of acrylic and an air conditioner pump on it. Like the pump that's used for charging air conditioners. It's not the Large Hadron Collider. But you're absolutely right. Rule 1 on the internet, don't read the comments. Rule 2, if you decide to violate Rule 1, don't engage. It's very true. It's very true. Keep cutting these too long. I know it's a really random question to ask, but out of curiosity, what are real estate prices like down in Vegas? Is stuff pricey there? Still a lot cheaper than other big cities, but the market here is kind of nutso right now due to the exodus from California. I see. So your prices are creeping up? And why the exodus from California? Just a cost of living kind of thing? Oh, I see. Okay. People leaving California because lots of folks can work remotely now, so there's less reason for them to. Yeah. I mean, it must be crazy in places like what am I trying to say? Like San Francisco, where you're in an tech industry is like, I mean, even before the pandemic, a lot of them would work remotely. We're downtown, which is pretty hot now too. But I think the average home cost here is like $300K. Okay. $300K. Right. Okay. That's good. Because people are leaving. Interesting. Mortgage rates have also been really low. Yeah, it's the same here. And it's so funny because our government actively tries to manipulate the housing market in to keep things sort of moderately affordable. They I don't know, they try to slow down. The provinces, institute all these rules to slow down the housing market, but then the federal government's like, yeah, no, let's keep the interest rate at like 0.5%. So it's completely contradictory. It's so strange. But I'm surprised that the average house price is only $300K. I mean, to me that seems low. For a big city. Yeah, but we have none of that here. Investors keep buying stuff up. Regular folks have a hard time getting into lower prices. I see. Yeah, right. Yeah, so here in I've mentioned it before. I'm in Victoria, British Columbia, and there's so much land they could just keep building. Yeah, so I'll just speak assuming that most people don't know anything about this region of Canada, but so Vancouver Island is very mountainous, with the exception of the lower part here where we are. And I live on this little bit that sort of sticks up straight, out the top of Victoria, called the Saanich Peninsula, which has really the only arable flat land for the most part, in the area. And it's a very desirable place to live out here. But because it has very limited arable land, there's almost like a farm trust on it. There's what's called an agricultural land reserve, where the government won't let developers like subdivide, large tracts of arable land into housing developments, because they want to protect the farmlands, because there's so little of it in British Columbia. So as a result, there's not a lot of housing, but there's a huge desire to come out here because Victoria's climate is extremely good when you think of Canada and the vast Arctic wasteland that most people believe us to be living in up here. We get maybe a week of snow, and for the most part, our winters are like maybe. I'm not going to say this in Fahrenheit because I'm Canadian, but like we sort of sit around 10 degrees, 10 degrees centigrade on the coldest of days. And it's just a really, as far as the rest of Canada is concerned, this is the place that you want to end up. So we have this huge, desire. People don't. No, they don't. No, I do not have. I don't. You'll never see me have to just be right back while I feed the huskies. That won't happen. But I mean it in the sense that like there are certainly places like Toronto and on anywhere in Ontario where you're going to have a long winter, right? It's same as northern U.S. But it's just not. We just don't get that here, right? We're like Seattle. No, we don't have to get the auger out to drill through the lake. We do have to keep our vodka in the freezer. But because of all of that, there is a huge housing crisis here, because there's nothing being built. Everybody wants to come here. And so our prices are just going up and up and up and up and up. And I think at least last month, the average house price was about 1.1 million Canadian in Victoria. And like 300,000, that average price that you mentioned. I mean, and you have to factor in the exchange rate, obviously, but what is that? That's like probably about 400,000 Canadian is 300K American. You're looking at maybe a 1-bedroom apartment for that rate here. Wow. That's just, I can't imagine. That's 115K is a deposit here. That's what a seller would want to see, right? Up front, before you give them the rest of the nondescript gray bags with dollar signs written on them. That's why New York City and San Francisco are so expensive. Lots of restrictions on new construction and demolition. Big tech hubs, yeah. But what's so weird about Victoria is like there's no industry here. There's nothing here. Newlywed and the nearly dead. Small and wonky, but cheap as fuck. Yeah. I mean, your home is your castle, regardless of what it is. I work in real estate, IRL, so, I mean, I know that, I know that people get very attached to them and they make them their own, and that's great. You should. I mean, our house definitely has its peculiarities, and, but we love it. Huge as Plastic, welcome. I am currently working on the double Zeta. And just stick this on, I'll show you a picture. There it is there. Gundam Double Zeta based on the Ver.Ka. And it is from Fortune Meow Studios. Those guys there. So far, pretty fun build. Yeah, Fortune Meows. Pretty fun build. I'm happy with it. Here I can... Well, no, I don't want to switch scenes because I'm having some issues with my overlays, but it's not bad, like in terms of the instructions. It's not the most detailed I've seen, but it's better than what you get with a lot of conversions. You know, you sort of have to figure out, you know, after you've done your part inventory, you just kind of take the individual pieces and figure out where they go. I've only had to do 2 destructive edits to the model. One is here, this piece. This is the backpack that you have to take a razor saw and cut off a whole bunch of stuff here for this piece to sit on top. Like that, like that. And then there's thrusters in here. And then on the arms, there's another part. It's a leg. On the arms, there's a piece on the back of sort of the main shoulder joint that is it's like a polycap. It's not really a polycap, but it's the inner frame plastic, and you do have to cut a piece off to get it to work. Additionally, you know, surprisingly, actually, there's a lot of resin. The legs are pretty much completely resin, even to the point where the inner frame's gone. This is the knee joint. They give you a knee joint with it, so they really replaced a lot of the legs. The arms, not so much. You do use a few pieces of arm, but then you're left with the forearm pieces are solid resin, and so are the biceps, but I think it still uses the inner frame for the joint, the elbow. But I'm having fun. It's tape hell. It's there's a lot of tape so far. you know how resin kits are if you do them. Masking, Addy Misk, I think, called it masking. How's the masking hell coming along? But yeah, it's a cool build. It's fun, and I think it looks great. Yeah, so in the feet, the inner frame and the bottom and the calf are the only pieces that aren't replaced. So I missed something there, Etchy. Your area reminds me a bit of Marin County in the San Francisco Bay Area based on how you described it. No industry there, forestry, but along the bay, highly desirable for great weather, beautiful surroundings, close enough to San Francisco that you'd need to commute, but it's mostly families and empty nesters. Yeah, that's That is Victoria. You have described Victoria. No worries, Drift. Picked up the double Zeta yesterday for a bargain, so I was thinking of finally trying a resin conversion kit. Oh, cool. So did you get like the actual? So you got the Gunpla, you mean, not the resin kit or the conversion? Because I wonder if you're actually thinking of doing a conversion. Let me just check here. I think it's still in stock at GKM. No, they're out of stock. Where I got this, they're out of stock, unfortunately, of the conversion. Because GKM is I don't know if you're familiar with GKM, or like, you know, their full URL is like shop2000.com. I can link it actually. I'll link you the copy. So that's a listing to the actual kit that I got. A lot of people don't realize that even though GKM is generally like an anime garage kit recasting website, they do sell original resin conversions from various companies like Evo, Evolution, Infinite Dimension, you know, the usual names. And they had this one, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna grab that because I like the way it looks. New Gundam front. That one's nice too. Anyhow, all right, so we should be able to paint these. Get this going here, over here. But yeah, Hugus Plastic, it's certainly a good quality kit. Like, you know, nice deep panel lines. Love the details that they've added. You know, when you compare something like this piece. I'll see if I can build one here. Where the hell are they? Okay, they're not in there. Here we go. It's the wrong one. Oh, here they are. You know, when you compare that part to this, that's the wrong one. You know, there's the difference between the two pieces sort of up close. Back doesn't really matter, but you can see there's way more to that. Impressively so. Anyway, let's paint these. Okay. A few drops of this one. We'll do 6. Tiny little bit of paint. Okay. Sure nothing's moved here. There. Give that a clean. Little tip for people with who are new to airbrushing. You never want to, with the dual action airbrush, you never want to use them like a spray can, like a rattle can, right? You want to, you kind of, when you get into airbrushes, you kind of have this habit of your thinking, line of thinking that you want to use them like a rattle can, where you're doing this, right, and doing short little bursts, because you do that with rattle cans. The way that you're supposed to use an airbrush is you apply the air and then ease back on the trigger, which lets the paint flow, but never let go. Never just let go of everything at once. You want to ease the paint on, ease the paint off, ease the paint on, ease the paint off. Never stop the airflow while there's paint coming out, because what happens is it backfeeds a little bit onto the needle when you do that, and you run the risk of having your next shot set out this like splurt of paint. You get these drops. And you've probably seen me do it a few times, because I still sometimes just forget and let go like that. And then the next time I use it, you get a splotch. If you have an inexpensive airbrush, like the really cheap ones, it's really endemic to those, that issue. Whereas the more expensive ones, like the Eclipses, and when you get up sort of over $150 airbrush, they tend not to do that, but the less expensive ones can. So again, if I turn the fan off, you can kind of hear it, but you have no air, right? Air, paint. And then when you're finished, keep the air on while you ease it off, right? They can still hear there's air. And then let go. So air on, paint off, air off. Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's the same, right? Like, so you just have to remember when you're using it that you just always want the air on when you're painting. Just hold it down all the time. And then just paint like this while it's down. And it's a habit you'll just develop. I still find myself occasionally, when I'm done with a part, I'll do that. And then when you do it the one last time, you'll get a blob, okay, the next time you use it. But yeah, it's a good little pro tip that make sure that you're not going to have any screw ups. Oh, yeah, and I mean, I'm sure I can fix that, but I just haven't had time. It's bizarre. I don't understand why it happens. It just does. You know, it's every little silly thing that you add to a stream. It's just another failure point, right? So for whatever reason, this scene, when I come into it from any other scene, like my starting stream or you know, the spray booth, because I use a different camera. I don't keep this camera obviously for the spray booth because it wouldn't be looking at me. But the first time this scene turns on, that camera it just yeets. It yeets itself off into the distance. I don't know why. No idea. And it has to do with the that tape god thing, right? Because I moved the camera. I've got two filters on there with the move filter that move that that scene, the Corvus Oculum scene is that Corvus Oculum the yellow frame around this and the crow is all part of its own scene that has that filter applied to it that's in here as an overlay, and that whole thing is supposed to move up. I don't know. I just don't know. Yep, and no matter how much you test, once you go live, there's always something messed up. Exactly. It was, you know, because when I was testing that crazy channel points reward, it didn't like I wasn't switching scenes, so I didn't notice it until that night when you guys actually triggered it, and then I went to a different scene, and it's like, oh, cool. I wonder where I went. Sometimes it pays to just keep things simple. I just like how that channel point reward has so much going on that it just absolutely shit cans the bit rate, and it just goes completely potato quality. I thought that was really funny. I watched it back on the VODs, and it's just like the bit rate just gets progressively worse and worse and worse. Okay, so we got these. It just melts. So let's take most of this off, except for these pieces that are masking the ends. Time we got 8. Okay. No, leave that one. Leave that one. Okay. Echibat. Thank you so much. 1337. Leet. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Very kind of you. You are so generous. message didn't show up, but on the congrats. Oh. I wonder why. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that a lot. That's going to be Stream Elements thing. I'll have to look into that. I'm going to just make a note. Yeah, it's funny. I made it to 100 followers, and I wasn't even streaming when it happened. I was watching Unpredictable, and she gave me a shout out, and a bunch of her people went over and and followed me. It's kind of funny. You go there. You go there. You go there. And you go there. Yeah, but you know what? From what you've described, Drift, you know, I think maybe you might be a little nerdy. Please don't take offense. I mean it in the best possible way. And you'll actually enjoy it. You'll actually enjoy it. I like sort of trying to figure out how to make these things do crazy shit. And I think you will too. And I look forward to your streams. You said retro games? I can't remember if you said like retro games like tabletop or like pinball or that like that kind of retro like arcade gaming, or if you had said just like retro gaming like C64 and stuff like that. Yeah, to me, nerdy is a term of endearment. Tinker with old hardware, plus kit building, painting, whatever. Nice. Nice. Where do I subscribe, sir? Oh, cool. Cool. I'd love to get some pinball machines, but they're really hard to come by in this neck of the woods. I'll build. I will build. I want to leave that one on, I think. Yeah. I'll probably build like a MAME type thing at some point. Console. Or upright, sorry, is what I meant to say there. But that's kind of a summer project. I know. Well, I need to do it before. I promised my wife that I would downsize the lowrider, from a full, 8x4 table to something like half that size, and so I'll need to do it before I do that, because she wants some space out there in my outside shop. Did you say you had an MPCNC, or are you thinking of making one? I can't remember. On the list. Very cool. Okay, so now we just need to get this bottom part in the light gray, which I'm just going to do like this. This is my grail. Okay, so I just brought up pinball machines out of the blue, but do you restore or do you collect pinball machines?
The emergency destruct system is now activated. Prepare for self-destruct.
Got a wonderful defense mechanism.
That's awesome. I'll look at that more later. That looks really cool. And DDR. Can't forget about DDR. I'm not up on my old pinball machines. Even though they were certainly in arcades when I was but a young boy. But like the arcades that we had here were usually just shopping malls. You know, there'd be a back room. We didn't have big big full sort of shops filled with them. And the one that I played most way back when was was actually Dragon's Lair. Good old Don Bluth. I was awful at it. You know what? It was one of those games that was just hard. It was hard until you spent a small fortune on it. And you just, systematically learned each room. They were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. Yeah, we had, our arcade had Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. Kimmy! Space Ace. He kept turning into a kid. I think it was Kimmy. All right, let's look. Drift.com. Cool. Wow. Countdown. Oh my God. That's awesome. Okay. I'm going to switch scenes. Doing it. It's so empty. That's amazing. I'm simultaneously jealous and incredibly happy for you both. Eee. Spray paint editions, repainted. Oh, okay. Okay. Look at that art. That's awesome. Wow, you really went all out. This is awesome. It's amazing. I'm going to read that thoroughly. Oh, and there's... Okay. Okay. Punchy rails. Usually those stencils are in. Okay. So did you have to rebuild this? Like, did you re-illustrate this, or is this the original deck that you're cleaning up? We're all nerds here. We certainly are. It's awesome. I'm gonna read the shit out of this later. Scroll down to see the playfield before I think. Next up, playfield touch-up. That's the end of this page. Yeah, drift.com. I'll check this out later on. This is amazing. This is your work. This is quite a project. Just rough. So lots of touch-up. Okay, okay. Replace the transistors. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, ready? Ooh, it didn't go. It didn't vanish. I was ready to go. Whee! Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. I know that's like OBS for you, right? It's like totally random. You know, my scenes basically say, you know, troubleshoot this, motherfucker. Now I'm not going to be broken. Yeah. Do you use regular OBS or do you use Stream Deck? Just gonna change the music here. Regular, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I use regular. I obviously use regular. If you want to do anything fancy, you kind of have to use the regular one because of the plug-in system. No. Super impressive, Drift. It's just pinball machines up here. I would totally grab one, but they're just so expensive in Canada. Used pinball machines. I mean, maybe they are everywhere, but there are just no deals here. They are so expensive. I think they just weren't as prolific up here as they were in the States, so there's just fewer of them. And it's you know, it's the last time I was looking, they were, you know, I think like $6,000 or $7,000 for ones that were in good repair. And I mean, maybe I'm naive and that's kind of going rate, but I wasn't prepared to pay that much. So what's a bummer though is that there aren't many plugins that work for Mac. Yeah, that's too bad. You could just pick up a cheap streaming PC. That's kind of what this is. If you really wanted to. That's what it costs for in demand. Yeah. So even like the most basic, you know, simple, not in demand machines here were that price. That's sort of where it started. And it only went up from there. If you want anything like that first clip you showed me, anything like that would be 10,000 and up. Now that's just pinball machines. Arcades in general, you can certainly acquire. Yeah, it's just I don't know why. It's just I think it's just purely comes down to smaller population. Arcades were a thing here, but they weren't as much of a thing as they were in the States. And yeah, just hey, Canada. You can have free healthcare, but no pinball machines. Now, is that going to work? Yes. Tron. Trying to remember, was that one of the old vector scope? What's the one that I'm thinking of where you had the knob that you spin left and right and you go around the outside of a was it called Tempest? And it used like the tube that's in an oscilloscope. Or am I just thinking that because it's all line art? Because I remember Tron. Tempest, yeah. Tempest, that's right. So it was Tron like that? Drift, to be honest, I'd rather have healthcare with all the money that I'd save in pinball machines. It wouldn't seem that pricey. That's right, you just have to import them. Tron is 4 minigames. Yeah, I remember that. Tanks, light cycles, right? Discs, right? Yeah, I could commiserate with you, Etchy, with you know, you mentioned your health issues. on stream, and yeah, like the chemo and all that. And I really don't know a lot about how it works in the States, to be honest with you. I think most Canadians are pretty naive about how the U.S. healthcare system works or doesn't work. But yeah, here you don't pay anything. You don't. You just walk into a doctor's office or a hospital and they treat you and you walk out. No bills. It's the way it should be everywhere on the planet. Yeah, that's what I gather. Yeah. What's crazy is it's the antithesis of our Canadian system. It sounds like it's so not complicated here. Where you can sometimes find yourself paying some money up here is for drugs. Some prescription drugs you do have to pay for. There are drugs and treatments up here that aren't covered that you would need to pay. But most employers have a drug plan. You have to pay for ambulances, though. If you get an ambulance ride, you'll get a bill. Just so weird. We don't hate our healthcare system. We sometimes are frustrated with how long it can take to have certain procedures done, which is the payoff. Which is the trade-off is what I meant to say there. And, I mean, like you sometimes have to, if you need don't get me wrong, if you go into the hospital and a physician says, we think you have something serious and you need an MRI, like right now, you'll get one. But when they don't think that there's really something pressing that needs or a pressing procedure that needs to be done, like a CT or an MRI, you can wait a few weeks for those, which I think is not the case at all in the States, where you can just walk in and right, and put your, pay and say, give me an MRI. At least that's kind of the way that Canadians think of it as. Maybe I'm wrong. It's crazy because here we have to wait a long time to see doctors too, even for pressing stuff. Right. 3 months to get an appointment with a specialist. Yeah, we can wait a little while for specialists. Oh, you can't walk in anywhere? Okay, I didn't realize that. Again, like we're very ignorant of how the American system works up here. Because I think there's a lot of misinformation. You do have Canadians saying, those Canadians you mentioned before saying about, who are critical of our system here, will say stuff like that. Well, I could just fly down to the States and just get an MRI and just step off the plane. There's an MRI clinic in the airport. I could just do it right there. Pay my $3,000, come back. It's like, well, I'm not so sure about that, but okay. Right? But I think what whenever you're talking to a Canadian, or a Canadian is arguing about our system versus the American system, do understand that I think most Canadians are very naive as to how it works down there. because we've absolutely been babied up here with our system. A good friend of mine here is a doctor. He was an anesthesiologist who worked in, I think he worked in, actually he may have worked in Vegas. But he got some nerve damage in his hand, and he went through all the therapies and things to kind of get himself okay again, and then yeah, it is random, isn't it? I think he grew up in San Diego, and he practiced in Vegas, and he had some nerve damage in one of his hands. He went through all the therapy to get that back on, so he was okay again. But when he sort of the first day back into the hospital, the lawyers kind of came and said, you know what, we've been doing some talking and we don't think that you should practice, because if you do anything wrong, they'll tell us, well, they'll sue us, basically saying, how could you let this person who had suffered nerve damage do this job again, even if he had gotten better. So he moved to Canada, fed up with the system down there, moved to Canada. He's still an American. I think he's landed or permanent resident up here now, but he just basically does. It sounds horrible, but he has pretty good life. He collects insurance because he had a great insurance plan, and it was the insurers who basically said, we would rather you don't work and we'll just pay you your salary, sort of. So that's what he does. But I've heard all about the American system from him, and just how, he's an absolute convert, as well, in the sense of, like, you guys up here don't know how you don't know how good you have it. So, and I wish more Canadians appreciated that. It's really foreign to me, especially the American system, because I don't have really a lot of American friends or acquaintances or family. My family's from the UK, where it's also socialized healthcare. So, and the rest of my family is in Australia, which is also socialized healthcare. So have I got all of this? I think I have all of this done. So we'll just do this last one here. Well, I certainly hope things change for the better down there in that on that topic of healthcare. I hope improvements can be made. Yeah, he's in Canada now. That's what I'm thinking too. We have the same sort of issues up here with things, where we really just need a lot of old white men in cabinet offices to cease to be before anything really changes. But we face the same issues up here with the wealth gap and all of that. I see it in my line of work all the time. Yep. very wealthy landlords complaining about how they can't raise the rent because there's rent controls. Yeah, the U.S. system is messed up in that regard. It's crazy. But I have heard people. I have heard poli sci majors talk about how parliamentary systems, U.S. I should say, poli sci graduates talk about how amazing parliamentary systems are in the sense of when you have. If your party is a majority, in Canada at least, if your party has a majority, you have complete control. There are really no other checks or balances. Anything that you want passed will get passed in terms of law if you have a majority. And we have the same. We probably have the issue worse than you guys do down there, where our parties in general will always, toe the party line. Like you never see any of our MPs, our members of parliament, voting against the party, ever. It's just not done, so... So what we always say up here as a general rule, minority governments are better, where the government, because we sort of have three parties up here. We have two parties. Well, classically, there have been two parties that were the main ones: the Liberal government and the Conservative government. And our liberal government aren't. They're sort of a little bit left of center. And historically, our conservative government has been a little bit right of center. What's happened lately, like with Trudeau's government, he's basically a centrist completely. And our conservative government has been creeping more and more towards the far right, unfortunately. Not like the far right, but more like they're becoming more like Republicans. But they're also getting less and less relevant, which is nice to see. And then we have this other party, which is called the NDP, the New Democratic Party. And they'll likely never get big enough to ever, win an election up here. But they have enough members that they're important. And right now, our Liberal government, Trudeau's government, is in a minority government with the NDP government. So there's a little bit of a check and balance. There's a little bit of a check and balance there with that. Gerrymandering, not really. No. That's something that's done quite intelligently up here. Is we have a separate entity in our government called. For one thing, provinces in Canada, they're not like your states. My understanding of the U.S. is kind of like the federal government more or less gives an enormous amount of decision-making to the individual state governments. Here, individual provincial governments deal with healthcare. They deal with most of the infrastructure, but not like the federal infrastructure. So like the Trans-Canadian highways and the trains and things like that are dealt with by the federal government. But the provincial governments are more or less left to deal with healthcare and all matters within the province. However, and this is where the big difference is, I think, between Canada and the United States, is our electoral system, is handled entirely by like what's almost called a crown corporation. They're not really they're a government entity that is not really politicized in any way. They're all hired bureaucrats. There's no elected member that gets put in charge of Elections Canada, and they're more or less untouchable by the government that's in power, because we don't do that thing here where all these political assignments happen when government changes. There are government workers, federal government workers, who just have, climbed the ranks of those organizations, from the mailroom kind of thing up to being in charge of it, like that idea. And they're just jobs. And a politician can't get elected, come in and say, okay, you're out and my guy's in, my nephew is in, right? That can't happen really in Canada. And Elections Canada operates our elections, our federal elections, across the entire country. And so you literally can walk in with a driver's license, walk up to the voting counter, you get a ballot, you fill it in, you put it in the box, done. And it's every Canadian does it exactly the same way. No machines, none of that. It's all done by paper, and it's all counted they do a thing where it's like there are members of Elections Canada as well as citizen volunteers who do the polling and the counting. But our electoral districts are more or less set in stone and can't really be altered. We have issues with like what's called first past the poll here, where it's kind of like, it's completely state by state. Yeah, that's right, and that's where that's why you have all that drama. I think because of like what happened in Georgia and all that. So here, yeah, our elections. It's so strange watching like the drama that ensued down there, because our elections are so simple. But the issue that we have up here is this concept of like first past the poll. So, the Canadian electoral system is like a winner takes all type thing. So even if you have, like, it's kind of like the idea, like if you have 51%, how do I put this? Like you can run into situations where you have a majority government, but it's hard to explain. You know what? I'll try to post an example of it. I'll find an eloquent example of what can happen up here where you get some unfair representation as a result of the system that we have, but it's rare. It's rare. I'll put an example in Discord if you're interested. But yeah, it's like a ranked system. Yeah, I will absolutely. And then we have a Senate, of course. We have the House of we have our the chamber. I want to say the House of Lords, but it's obviously not that. We have the House of Commons, which is like your House of Representatives, and then we have a Senate. And our senators here are they tend to basically do whatever the party in power wants, which is a little weird, because you just generally in Canada don't see something get voted on in the House of Commons and then just outright shut down in the Senate. And I think that's because most of our senators are, again, just old dudes who were given the appointment and are happy to just sit in there until they're 75 years old and collect a big fat check. And we don't vote on our senators. Our senators are appointed by the government of the time, as space is open. Sounds about right. Yup. All right. Okay, I think we can paint these now. Yeah. All right, let's go over here. Give this a little mechanical stir. I haven't used it in a while. That's what you use, right, Drift? It's a good brush. Yep, very good brush. Highly recommended. Yeah, they are nice. These. He's German. I should have a clip. Yeah, I highly recommend the Harder and Steenbeck line of brushes. They're all really well made and intelligently made as well. Where the needles are all marked, the needles and nozzles are all keyed. So, like the brass nozzle has 2 grooves turned into it that indicates it's a 0.2. And the needle itself on the back up here will have a pattern I can show you. This pattern here, see how there's 2... Well, actually, I'll show you on the other camera. Yeah, it's just really well thought out. And what's nice about it is you get basically like I see that camera, my camera's crapped out. Sorry about that. While it doesn't look like it, I am actually at my spray booth. Let me just clean this out. Really have gloves on. Whee! So it has multiple tips. So this is obviously a pinch tip. So if you have dry tip, you can, which is good for acrylics, right? You can just squeeze through and get the. I painted my nails. Sorry, like I airbrushed my nails, I should say. Very handy. And then there's a full guard, or these are handy too if you're doing. This is more for if you're doing art, where you can do a fine line and keep it pressed against the paper. And then there's a full shield. Which really only works, it doesn't work with the big needle because it sprays out too much and you get it spraying back in. But the back comes off and you can see here those two little rings that are in the middle of this, like right there, that means it's a point. That means it's a 0.2. A little bit like how E3D drill the holes in their nozzles. Yeah, and so it comes with the large cup and a little tiny one. And of course, all the cups have caps. And then in the front, and so it comes apart just like any other airbrush. Needle comes out the back. I don't like pulling the needle out the back because you often drag a whole bunch of shit right up into the the chamber behind the cup. So I usually pull it back a little bit, and then this just unscrews. And then the nozzle on the Harder and Steenbeck brushes, you can see, also has the two notches. So you know that this nozzle goes with that needle. Everything is PTFE, Teflon. So I know you don't use them, but lacquer's not a problem. And so yeah, once I unscrew the chuck, I then basically just pull the needle out this way, so you don't get any of this swill, back up in the body past the O-rings in there. And then at this point, yeah, it just comes apart like any other, where this unscrews. This is, of course, also spring pressure, so it gets looser and looser. I like it quite firm, but you can dial back your spring pressure on this. There's the spring. This is keyed. And then that just comes out the top like any other. And that's the extent to which you would ever want to disassemble it. It uses three, sort of like a tri-lobe air flow design around the nozzle. You can't really see them, but there's three lobes, so you get equal. The air is forced out around the nozzle in an equal way. Like it's not just spraying from the bottom; it's coming from all sides. And so, really, what you get if you're ever thinking of upgrading your airbrushes, what the Infinities give you is basically something that's as good as like the CMC Microns from Iwata, but for maybe like 3/4 of the price. And I just put a quick fitting system. Actually, it comes with a quick fitting system. Yeah, so that's the Harder and Steenbeck Infinity. 2 nozzle sizes. So here, as an example, this is a 0.4. And you can see there's 4. And if we look at the nozzle,
Look, everyone, hide your manga. Dreamcatcher Sky just entered Corvus's chat. Welcome to the stream, Dreamcatcher Senpai.
Dreamcatcher, hello, hello, hello. You've come in just right at the end. I'm just about to wrap it up. But welcome, I hope you're doing well. And you can see there's 4 there. So yeah, like highly recommended. Highly recommended. And they are German. Put that cookie down! So I'm just going to put this all back together. Well, I'm going to put the back of it back together. How are you doing, Dreamcatcher? I hope you've had a lovely week so far. Yeah, and it looks good too. You can remove this piece as well. There's a wrench that comes with it to take this brass section off. I'm not really sure why you'd want to, but I have 2 nights off this week, so I'm doing fine. Lovely. This is nice and tall too, which I like, because if you're doing like what a lot of airbrush artists would like to do is they feel that they get, this is more about what I was talking before, is they like to kind of get like, well, it's hard with the big cup, but, and I have really big hands, so it's all very dirty. But they like to get in here like this to give them a little more control and just use that part of the finger. And the tall cup kind of helps with that if you get kind of in front of it. Or sorry, the tall handle helps with that. Anyway, I put that on already. I'm not going to put the needle back in until I clean it. I will, however, do the nozzle. So yeah, CMC micron quality, but without the price. And a pretty decent selection of needles as well. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to raid into Unpredictable Artists body painting, and then I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave you all. But I will be back on Friday night at the late night time, and maybe we'll see you then. But if you're going to be on tomorrow night, Etchy, I will definitely catch you. Yeah, it was, and I'll send you a bit of that info that I suggested, and I'm going to read that your journeys through the land of pinball. The earlier hour, yeah, I know you. And I'll send you a bit of that info that I suggested, and I'm going to read that. What? Your journeys through the land of pinball. It's like, huh? Sorry, I opened mod view, and of course I'm there in the live corner, but yeah, it's nice coming on earlier. Not as many people, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. So, what do I want to do here? Let's head over to Dreamcatcher. Not Dreamcatcher, sorry. I assume you're not doing a body paint tonight, Dreamcatcher. But we'll go over to, I've clicked on the same thing again. What do I want? Focus. I want focus in my life. I want these buttons here. This one. And we can just go and say hello to Unpredictable. Is she even on? Yeah, there she is. Okay. I should really learn how Twitch works. Raid channel. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for the donation, Etchy. You're absolutely an amazing, beautiful, and wonderful person. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. And incredible conversation tonight. I learned a lot. Truly. And yeah, I will see you on Friday, perhaps. Drift, take care. Dreamcatcher, take care. Sorry, couldn't have chatted with you a bit more. Hope you're well. Hope you all have a great Thursday. And we'll see you later. Thank you.